What we did at Daylight, we had inspiration from the Kindle because a Kindle screen is completely different from an iPad screen.
Yeah.
It looks like a piece of paper, and that's why people like it. Oh, I can see it in the sun and read on the beach. It's really nice, and the battery lasts forever. However, the problem with those types of screens, which are called electronic ink, is they're too slow. So if you've ever used a Kindle or an e-reader or a similar type product, and you try and like flip a page really fast or zoom in and zoom out or read a PDF, it takes about like 3 seconds to load, and the refresh rate is terrible. And that's just kind of a limitation of that technology. So that's what we did. We invented a new screen display technology that's reflective at its core. And then unlike a Kindle, which I believe has a backlight to it, so you can use it at nighttime, we custom made our backlight to have the option to be 100% blue light free.
Hey, welcome to Hydrate with me, your host, Tracy Dews. Hydrate is a podcast that's going to break through the surface of hydration. There's so much more to hydration than simply drinking water. We're all made of approximately 99% water molecules. Wow! Wouldn't you say with that statistic that hydration might be a topic worth exploring? Allow me the pleasure of spilling the tea on the real science, simply broken down into actionable steps that you can easily integrate into your everyday life. So what do you say? Are you ready to get hydrated? Okay, Tristan, you're visiting from Wyoming, and I'm so jealous because I've never been there, but I'm going in a couple days.
That's like incredible. Like basically switching spots, I guess.
So, wait a minute. We're going to talk today about a very fascinating new technology that is essential because we live in a technological age. In order to thrive in business, a lot of time it does require some sort of technological engagement every day. And we're learning a lot now about how this imbalanced light is really affecting our circadian rhythm and therefore affecting our health. So we're going to talk about that. But first, I wanted you to give me the drip on what it's like living in Wyoming. Like, because we see all these movies and these shows. I mean, I'm from California, okay? So you need to give us a little insight.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's the least populated state in the country, and therefore pretty much like the most amount of nature per person. That's the way I look at it. And I just want to be able to get into the wilderness and experience nature, experience what I call like the real world. And again, this all ties into Daylight, what we're going to talk about is everything now is like this artificial reality, and we're in cities, and it's great to be close to people, but we've really been disconnected from the source, the real world, like the natural world that we've been designed to live in, to thrive in, to survive in throughout all humanity, throughout like all biology. So for me, Wyoming is just the best way to get really close to that. And yeah, it's fun. There's a lot of history there, like cowboys and outlaws, and there's bison like in my town's park. There's hot springs in my town.
Ooh, that's where I want to go, the hot
yeah,
springs.
yeah, beautiful mountains, and yeah, just not a lot of stuff. There's like, not to drive 40 minutes to go to Walmart is like the biggest grocery store. So
Okay.
it's inconvenient for like a lot of things, but honestly, today you can order pretty much anything online. So that's not a huge problem. And
So you guys get Amazon delivered to your door?
yeah, it takes like probably a day or two longer.
Okay.
So yeah, Jeff Bezos doesn't have like 1 day shipping to Wyoming, but that's all right. We're okay with that. But yeah, it's kind of just like for me the most untapped like frontier in the lower 48. So that's why I love it. And I'm sure you're going to love it as well. It's beautiful.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I'm super excited. I have some questions about Wyoming.
Let's hear them.
What do you guys do for fun? Is cow tipping a thing?
I mean, I'm friends with a lot of ranchers, but no. I mean, I don't do that. But maybe if I was like a teenager or something, I'm sure.
Okay, when you were
like,
a teenager, did you do that?
No, I also didn't grow up in Wyoming, so I live
Oh,
there. I live there now, so I don't want to be a fraud and like say I grew up
okay.
there,
Okay.
but I live there
So you
now.
didn't grow up because I'm thinking like, what do kids do for fun? They've got to have
Yeah,
like maybe they go outside and play.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
imagine,
Imagine that. You'd be
create
surprised though,
things.
even in small town Wyoming. I mean, actually, it's funny because there's like two kids. They're probably like 12, 13. They walk down my street all the time and they're always fishing. They're always like asking me for fishing rods and reels, and they always walk by my house and cut through my yard or something. And yeah, there's definitely more outside play going on, I think, than in the cities, but there's still a lot of kids that are just heads down in the screen. So it's not like Wyoming's like impenetrable to the modern world that we live in. But yeah. What do you do is just go out and enjoy the nature, right? Like we have so fishing's big in my town, fly fishing, there's hot springs, there's small little hikes, so you can like mountain bike or hike, or you go camping, hunting, skiing in the winter. It does snow a lot. It's very cold, so that's probably a big difference from this perfect weather out here all the time. But for me, that's great. I love like you need a filter because else everyone will move to a place if it's like too amazing. So
Yeah.
Wyoming, the filters are like the really cold winters, the inconveniences, which to me are not a big deal, and I enjoy them actually. And then probably just it's a little dry sometimes. So
The
like right
air's
now,
dry.
yeah, yeah.
So how long ago did you move there?
Almost 4 years now. So
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
My sister led the way, so she went to the University of Wyoming for what
Ah,
for
okay.
whatever reason, and now the family is out
And she told you
out
how
west.
cool it was, and you're like, gotta join.
Kind of. I kind of visited, and then we always grew up like my mom's from Austria, so we grew up hiking, skiing, and camping, and just being outside a lot. So very fortunate about that. And then, yeah, it just kind of made sense, and I visited and was simultaneously learning about all this health stuff, and was like, oh, the food system is messed up, and oh, regenerative agriculture and red meat is nutrient dense, and we started buying like quarter cows and quarter beef or half beefs from like her friend, and then it just went down that and yeah, pretty much got hooked more and more. I was there. So it was an inevitability, I guess, but I should give the credit where it's due.
So is that what you typically eat there for red meat is bison? Or do
Yeah,
you
bison. I used to work for a bison ranch,
Mhm.
so I had bison then. But then also friends with a really great beef rancher. Shout out RC Carter, who's doing it like crazy. BLM like rotational grazing, raising them like 4 to 8 years old, doing it the right way.
Yeah.
But yeah, bison beef is very popular, and then hunting, like whatever you can, harvest when you're hunting is really big, of course.
Did you get any elk this year?
Not yet. I'm gonna go. It's just 1 week that I went. Well, that's not true. I went in archery season for the first time, and it's a lot more challenging. But saw a lot of elk, and then last week when I went, did not see a lot of elk. So hopefully next weekend I will be successful. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the real world pursuit of nutrient dense food.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
amazing
Oh
because
my gosh. Yeah. So good. Well, I hope one day I can get my own elk. I'm
I believe in you.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're already practicing,
I need
so
someone to believe in me. That's where it all starts. Someone believe in you. First I gotta make my like trip out, my voyage out to Wyoming, and then I'll ask you the spots that I should go.
there we go.
So let's talk about Daylight Computer. What is it? It's not an iPad, it's like a notepad.
It's a tablet computer is
Tablet.
our first product. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Not really up with these words. I just know like an iPad. You know?
Here we go. This is it. It's right here.
Okay, this is cool. So you guys sent me this last week. I opened it up and I felt like it was Christmas. I get a lot of gifts and packages in the mail. I feel very fortunate, but this one got me really excited. I was like, because I, in my job, have to be on the computer a lot and I get just exhausted thinking about having to open up my computer. I would have my assistant look through all my emails and say, just send me anything important in a text on my phone because I don't like looking at screens. And on my phone, I have, all the filters. So it's like the blue lights are out because I don't know, my nervous system is sensitive to all those lights. And so when I got the daylight computer or tablet, I was like, oh my gosh, now I can actually read things and look stuff up and feel good about it.
And you noticed that right away?
Right away, I felt relaxed. Like right away. I was on it for probably about an hour and a half, which is probably bad, but I just was so excited, and I love how you use the little pencil and it feels like you're using a real pencil. Like it has the sound and the texture, and I'm very kinesthetic. So I felt like I was writing in my journal, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I'm gonna take this everywhere with me. Yeah, I was like a little kid playing with it. And I've never been that way about technology.
Yeah, well, that's exciting because I mean, that's what we're going for is like changing the entire experience with technology to be more synergistic with humanity. And then that way you can bring out the best in what you're capable of. Because right now, tech it's a tool, but it's become way more than a tool. It's become a portal and it's become this like invasive thing that is just pulling us in so many directions and overstimulating us, stressing out our nervous system, like you mentioned. And we're just dealing with that because there's simply no alternative. And we realize that it just doesn't have to be that way. And I knew that for a long time before I joined Daylight, but I just never thought, it would be that soon that we could bring something like this to market because the barrier to entry in tech is so high because, it's a $1 trillion companies
Yeah. There's
are
pretty much a
running it.
monopoly of it, right? So it's like you've got almost like two options, like the PC and the Mac, and then, all the software you can buy. But when it comes to the hardware, you're really like kind of wedged in. And I think that it's so amazing that you guys are taking that leap and pioneering that approach of like, hey, there's something more out here for us, and let's look into it. Let's peer around the curtain and see what else.
And the timing is perfect as well because, since COVID has happened, I think the health movement has accelerated. The light education has become a bit more mainstream or at least more known in the health space in general. And people are aware that their devices are not great for them. They might not know why, but they know like kids are definitely addicted to their screens. Every mother knows that they're not great, every parent. And even if you pulled 10 people off the street and asked them probably, hey, what's your relationship with your screen time and your phone? They'd probably be like, it's not amazing, trying to get it down,
Right.
but
it's like a bad habit, right?
Algorithm really works. Yeah. But what they don't realize is that it's a combination of the hardware and the software that's really making this so addicting and so overstimulating. It's, if the Las Vegas casinos were all grayscale, how many people would be so compelled to stay in there and say there's light in the casinos? There's a reason why there's no natural light in there. And then there's all these artificial flashing lights along with the games that you're playing. So it's not just TikTok. It's the hardware, it's the screen, it's the light, it's the whole environment that is causing this very negative relationship with technology.
So tell us more about that. Help us to understand how this was created to make it so addictive.
Yeah, and that's a controversial area is, how did we get here? And for me, I don't even think that really matters because whether it was, by design or whether that's just what happened over, years and years of needing to fulfill this insatiable desire for growth in our, what I like to call our fiat economy, where everything just needs to grow double digits every year in order to keep up with the expansion of the monetary supply.
Yeah.
Which is a fun topic to explore. But anyway, these companies are just, it has to be all about growth. And eventually they figured out that in order to keep growing, we need people on screens for longer. And, it all just optimized for bright colors and viral content and, the ultimate experience. And now they want to suck you in even deeper by giving you a headset and just being in this virtual reality, right? And what has that done?
Or even the glasses.
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
right?
the glasses, the headset.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Well,
not just the
I guess both.
headphones.
Yeah, all of that, right?
Yeah.
And that is just completely disconnecting us from
And
where?
now with AI, it's like you could go into any world that you could possibly even imagine. I'm sure you can create any world you desire.
Thankfully, I don't think that many people are buying these headsets because it's just not like what we're we're after, right?
Yeah.
Like we do want like true human experience of fulfillment
Yes.
in reality. And what is reality? It's what has been on this earth for thousands and millions of years. And that's what our biology is optimized
Yeah.
for, right? And the further we deviate from that, which is happening at a more accelerating rate every passing year, the more issues we have, physically, mentally, and we see that, right? Like chronic disease is proliferating, mental health issues,
Mhm.
and, we're always here to blame all these different things.
Take a
But
pill for it. What's the pill? What's the
yeah,
magic fix?
and I'm sure a million folks have heard this before, and everyone on your podcast is very like aware of this, but it's very inconvenient to point this as well to your devices.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is now in 2024, we're spending the majority of our waking time on
I
screens,
know, it's
on devices.
embarrassing.
But it's like
Yeah.
everyone. It's just like, why? Because that's our job. Like, that's how
Yeah.
we work. That's how we communicate. Even when you're not directly staring at a screen, it's indirectly present. Like I'm
Right.
in my car. Oh, I'm looking at the screen for the GPS, but I'm
Yeah.
driving and I'm looking and I'm, oh, I got an email. Like everyone's texting and driving. And then there's, they want the self-driving cars so that you could just look at your screen the whole time when you're driving now. And it's the reality. And it's cool because it opens up so many possibilities with, knowledge and learning and communicating with
Mm-hmm.
anyone in different disciplines. But we now have the world of knowledge at our fingertips,
Mm-hmm.
but we're more distracted than ever before. We're sicker than ever before because no one should have any excuse to why they can't learn anything and become an expert in any topic.
Yeah.
But what do they spend most of their
Go to
time doing?
university.
They spend most of their time kind of just like, watching random stuff or like doing their job and then getting pulled in different directions. So productivity from like an availability standpoint has probably never been lower. I mean, if you think about it. So, and that's just as a result of the environment and the devices that we're using because they're built for that Candy Crush experience.
Candy Crush. Oh my gosh,
That's
I
what
forgot
they're
about that.
optimized
Yeah.
for, right? And because that's the business model. And then
Yeah.
they're feeding that even worse, like with the data in the software algorithm, be like, okay, like Tracy loves watching these types of videos. We're going to keep feeding that to her. And our brains are, they're quantum computers, but they're still primitive. Like, if you give us the content, like if someone keeps showing me like skiing videos and elk hunting videos, like I'm gonna like, wow, that's pretty cool. I want to watch that. Wow, imagine if I did that. Like, and it's like we consume this unbelievable stuff every day. Like if I watch someone like do a double backflip off, Jackson Hole Ski Resort cliff, and I'm like, wow, that's insane. Like that's the most incredible thing maybe I would have ever seen in my life if I experienced that in person. And that's just like, maybe like 2:05 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon that I just saw it on Instagram.
I know, and it's like you have to keep raising the bar of what gets people's attention, and that's what's kind of scary.
And that's the
'Cause nothing's
desensitization.
exciting
Yeah.
anymore.
The dopamine desensitization is insane. And that's why kids, they look at all this crazy stuff and unbelievable things on social media and online, and then they go out into the real world and it's gray. It's dull. So at Daylight, what we wanted to do is like, okay, what if the internet is dull and gray and your real life is full of color?
Yes.
And that's all we want to do. We want to get you out of the artificial reality, only be on your devices for work, for productivity, for getting things done, and then have that experience in the real world to be full of, what you want to explore and what you want to do. And that way you can do more with less and, get the full human experience.
I'm on board. I'm full all in. I love it. Yeah, because I really hear what you're saying, Tristan. It's like when I was a kid, we used to go outside and after dinner, all the kids would line up on the street and play football, baseball, I don't know, whatever was happening that night, we'd choose. But we were all playing a game, running around, laughing, and it was like I just remember the smells in the air, the feeling in my body, like the blood rushing, feeling alive, and I don't connect like when I'm inside working, I feel disconnected. Like when I go outside, I'm not as in tune with nature. I can't think of the last time I was outside and it was like I remember the scent that got me excited, or it's like that I mean, I love smelling flowers and stuff like that. But it's just it was a different experience. It was a whole body experience instead of just like your eyes and your brain and your nervous system connecting to this portal. It breaks my heart that so many kids are on these screens and they're taking more pills than ever because got ADD, ADHD, depression, overweight, unhealthy because they're not moving. To have something where it's like you see little children at a restaurant, they're holding these tablets, and there's no judgment because I get it. I'm a parent. I understand how hard it is, but these little kids, they grow up just so fixated on it, and that's all they really know. So I love that we're looking at different solutions because we're realizing it can be a problem. And it is a problem for us because we're addictive creatures. Like we fall in love with things and we fall in love with ideals. And when we're looking at a screen, like you said, like you see someone do a backflip off of what was like Jackson Hole.
You'll
Are
see it.
you
You'll see it soon. It's in
okay?
the Tetons.
You're
Yeah.
like, this is it. Like, this would be the most amazing thing you'd ever seen. But you're right. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. It's like, yeah, another cool thing that I saw, and it can get boring. And I think like the rise of porn and things that are giving these deep dopamine hits that give a false sense of connection and pleasure that your biology does know. Like this isn't what I was made for. This something's off, and we are getting sicker than ever. So, what's the deal with the screen? You're talking about, so for people who haven't seen it, you're talking about a gray screen. Does this do anything to help with our circadian rhythm as well? Is it less blue light? Because we hear a lot about blue light. So, can you go into that, the spectrums of light, and how this is going to be different for our whole system?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, what we wanted to do was solve some core reasons why technology is bad for us. And it starts with the screen, right? Because screens and modern devices, they have a very unnatural alien spectrum of light. They have isolated blue light and no or very little red and infrared. So if you compare a spectrum of sunlight, which is like 50 to 55% red and infrared light, it's very balanced. Like you get all the visible, the red and infrared, which is very rich. It's more healing. It's lower energy. And you get the visible and the blue and the violet and the ultraviolet. You never get blue without red and infrared. You never get orange without red and infrared. And you never get UV, which is also controversial. And the sun is bad for you. But all those studies are done in like isolation and, not taking into account the benefits of sunlight, of course. But that's the context. And then also, we know that blue light is very disruptive to our circadian rhythm because it can disrupt melatonin production 3 to 4 times more than red light,
Which is one of our body's most potent antioxidants.
It's an incredible molecule, and it composes kind of how your mitochondria is functioning too, and apoptosis and things like that, which is really important for cell cleanup and all these toxins we're exposed to. So that's why sleep is so tremendously important. And what are we doing right before bed? We're on these devices and they're disrupting our sleep, they're disrupting our circadian rhythm, and then they're also keeping us indoors, which to me might be the biggest downside. We spend roughly like 90%, I mean, probably not you and I, but the statistic is 90% of average, Americans and adults are spending indoors, which we used to spend 90% of our time outdoors or 100% of our time. And that's where biology is designed to take these input signals of light, of other areas of the electromagnetic spectrum, of the sense, the oxygen, the food, and everything, right? And now we're indoors, which is a very dull lit environment of isolated flickering blue light heavy.
Flickering.
And flickering is one that's underrated, that people don't realize that LEDs, fluorescent tubes as well, but they're constantly changing in amplitude. They're almost turning on and off at such a rate that we can't visually perceive. but our brain is seeing that, and it's
Wow.
stressing
Super
out our mind.
disruptive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can literally look up like the Institute of Electronic Engineers. It's undebatable. Flicker, and they just list the bullets. It causes an aggravation of autism symptoms. It causes eye strain. It causes migraines. It can even cause anxiety and epileptic episodes. And this is like undebatable, really. But it's in every single LED screen. It's in every single LED light. Why? It's easier from like a electronics control perspective, and that just became the standard. So what we did at Daylight, we looked at all of these things, and we had inspiration from the Kindle, because a Kindle screen is completely different from an iPad screen.
Yeah.
It looks like a piece of paper, and that's why people like it. Oh, I can see it in the sun and read on the beach. It's really nice, and the battery lasts forever. And the reason for that is because it's actually a reflective screen. So why are things in colorful in nature? Why is a tree or leaves green? It's because it's actually just reflecting green light. It's absorbing the rest of the sunlight, and it's reflecting green. It also reflects infrared as well, but you can't see that. And that's how nature portrays color to us. The source of light in nature is just the sun. Everything else is a reflection. So for us, now we have all these, sources of light everywhere, and they're emitting light to us, which is already unnatural. But the Kindle works really well because it just reflects the light back at you. However, the problem with those types of screens, which are called electronic ink, is they're too slow. So if you've ever used a Kindle or an e-reader or a similar type product, and you try and like flip a page really fast or zoom in and zoom out or read a PDF, it takes about like 3 seconds to load, and the refresh rate is terrible. And that's just kind of a limitation of that technology. So that was the inspiration, and we thought, how can we take that and make that better and get a happy medium to where we have a similar type screen that's monochrome. It doesn't have, color, and then it also has the ability to be used outside and be reflective in nature. That way, we can be outside when we're working, because you get all the right input signals. You can have your feet on the earth. You can be grounding. You get fresh air. You're getting the full spectrum sunlight. You're getting more, natural electromagnetic inputs. And then you're away from the stuffy, dull environment of indoors. So that's what we did. We invented a new screen display technology that's reflective at its core. And then, unlike a Kindle, which I believe has a backlight to it, so you can use it at nighttime, but it's kind of a backlight just like a normal LED, we custom made our backlight to have the option to be 100% blue light free. So as you used it, you saw that slider it's amber in tone. So that light is blue light free, but it's better than the triple click shortcut on your phone, or, turning your MacBook red, which does get rid of the blue light, and it's a fantastic option. However, anyone who's stared at a fully red screen knows that you literally can't see anything. And it's almost dangerous to wear dark red blue light blockers at nighttime.
Yeah, when you're driving.
Or when that's definitely
makes
dangerous.
you tired too.
Exactly.
Long car trips are like, oh.
So we were like, okay, well, what's the most optimal spectrum from a health perspective that's still visually appealing? And it's better to even have a broader spectrum of light anyway, because that's how nature works. So if you look at a candle or a fire, the light, it actually has, maybe a tiny bit of blue, maybe not, but some green, more yellow, more orange, more red, and then more infrared. It's kind of like a curve up and to the right as you go with longer wavelengths. And that's a very broad spectrum, and it's spread out over those wavelengths. It's very low power density, low brightness, but it's rich in the right kind of light. It's not disruptive to sleep as much as like a LED, a traditional white LED. So that was our inspiration. So we have like a spectrum of light that's from like 510 nanometers to high 600s, and it gives it that nice amber kind of candle-like color without any blue light, and then with zero flicker, because we custom made the circuitry that's powering those LEDs and controlling those LEDs. So the benefit is the screen is non-invasive to your biology. It's not going to cause eye strain. It's not going to disrupt your sleep to the degree that a normal screen would. And you can, most importantly, use it outside. So you're not confined to the indoors. The battery life's incredible because you don't have to have the screen or the LEDs on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it outside because you're not competing with the sun and competing with nature. You're working with it.
Yeah.
So it's thinking really simply, how can we make technology that's more synergistic with nature and biology? And it turns out it's really not that hard to do that in terms of the concept and the idea. It's just challenging to implement it because of the current manufacturing normalcies and protocols and supply chains. But that's what we set out to do, and that's what we've done with the first product.
Okay. And it's calming for your nervous system because you don't have that flickering. So your nervous system's not. I never really thought about that, how when you have that constant flicker and your nervous system's agitated, I mean, it feels like people now more than ever feel very irritable. You know, you go out and it's like people have a shorter fuse than 20 years ago.
They're just sympathetic. They're just dominant and kind of hyperactive fight or flight mode. I mean, imagine someone's like tapping you like all the time.
Yeah.
It's like kind of what a flicker is.
That's a good analogy because, yeah, you're right. It's like a tap, like tap, tap, tap that you kind of just put on the back burner and you don't think about it. Kind of like with pain, when people have a lot of pain in their body or inflammation, I should say, there's the brain can really register, I think, only like 4 pain points at once, and the rest it's got to put on the back burner. And the inflammation and the pain may be there, but your body's not able to really identify it because it's only going for the priorities. And it sounds like that's kind of what's happening with us. It's in the background, these aggravations. I mean, kind of like non-native EMFs. It's like in the background, these things that are causing cellular disturbances and incoherent information that's causing dissonance in our cells. So another thing with this computer is there's no cell, or the tablet, there's no cellular connection with it, or is there?
There's no cellular data chip, so
Okay.
it's just Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And then you can connect an Ethernet cable and hardwire it in if you want to do that. And yeah, there's Bluetooth as well if you want to use that. Typically, wire in a keyboard if you want. But yeah, the EMFs is interesting, and that's where I like have taken a deep dive, electrical engineering background, and exactly what you're saying is right. Like we have all this noise and the signal to noise ratio, which is like an engineering term, but it fits very well to modern day how we go through life. So we have all of this noise, so the real signals that we want have just been dampened. You know, the sunlight, the natural magnetic field of the earth, the signals that conducts the symphony that biology really is. And it's all about timing and having the right inputs. Because if you want to have the right outputs, which let's say is like energy and vitality and the right hormone production, and that's all dependent on the inputs and the timing of the whole system. And that's where, of course, clocks and circadian rhythm, that's all connected. So if you want the right outputs and an optimal vital life, you need to have the right input signals. And that's what's completely been distorted now. And that's what we're trying to, fix, because it doesn't have to be that way. And we don't need to be confined indoors all the time. But yeah, EMFs is a big passion of mine and the company. We have an opportunity, right? When you acknowledge something's a problem, you can investigate and then build solutions. So I'm really excited for the future of how we can, create devices that have low RF, radio frequency radiation, and are more strategic. And it really can be simple. Like, for example, what we're going to implement in a few months is just a software update that says, hey, if you're not using your daily computer or you're not on the internet, it's just going to go into airplane mode. And it's not going to be pinging the Wi-Fi network every 10 seconds. It's not going to be pinging Bluetooth every 10 to 12 seconds, because that's what's happening when you're just leaving your phone on the table and it's connected to data, it's connected to Wi-Fi, it's connected to Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Even if it's not physically connected or you're making a call or surfing the internet, which then the RF radiation would be far higher when a message comes through, it's still just pinging in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes back to what you said. It's just all this background noise, this background stressors. and it's totally unnecessary. And it could be, a team working for 2 weeks to do a software update to just change that to be like, all right, airplane mode when we're kind of in standby. And that actually would save like battery life as well. It'd be like advantageous for multiple reasons. So
I love that. There's so many smart little things that you guys really put a lot of intention into. I can feel that. Yeah, I felt like when I was using the tablet that it did feel like it was very intentional. Things were very well thought out. And I can see probably there's going to be listeners who are like, yeah, that seems great, but I wouldn't want to use something that has a grayscale to it and it's not that exciting, like color. Like, what if I need to see something, So, what would you say to those people?
I think in general, there's going to be people that are like, wow, that's really cool. I don't know, see how that fits into my life or my routine. And I could just say the tablet form factor is really nice because it's very versatile. So anyone could use a nice digital note taker or something to read books on or something to read PDFs on. And that's kind of like, it's really great at that. And like you said, we put a lot of attention to detail to literally making it feel like paper. It
Yeah,
sounds like
it
paper. It
does. It
feels
feels like,
paper. And that's something that was important to us because we
yeah.
want it to feel like a magic piece of paper.
Mhm.
And that's just like the first step. And that's like the e-reader category, which we're already like a lot more advanced than because of the screen technology. And then from there, I connect a keyboard, I go to the park, and it's amazing for writing or answering emails. Do you need color for that? Not really. It's
No.
just text or messaging, doing Slack and WhatsApp and things like that. You can all do social media DMs, or Twitter turns from like this crazy news feed into like an old school newspaper because you don't have color. So you're going to be a lot less likely to doom scroll. And then if you do have things to write or tweet or DM, like you can do that on a keyboard outside, which is really nice. But yeah, if you want to, post something on Instagram or edit a picture or a video, it's not the product for that. And that's okay because there's trade-offs to be had there, but it's something that getting into your routine, every hour that you're trading from like a daylight computer instead of an iPhone or a MacBook or a normal computer, you're saving your eyes, you're saving your brain and your biology an hour of stress. So we're not expecting you to just go fully, full routine on the daylight computer. But if you can save, an hour, 2 or 3 a day, that's monumental. And especially if it's the first hour or the last hour, that's really going to have an impact on your overall biological function because that's when we're most susceptible to how we feel for the rest of the day or the next day. It's like the first hour you wake up, if you're going right to the screen, it's going to change your brain state for the rest of the day, as opposed to if you go outside and read something on your daylight or journal or note take or answer messages on there, which is what I do. And then same thing right before bed, of course. But, this is our first product. So we're like, the world is our oyster in terms of where we can go from here.
Let's make a phone.
And yeah, we want to do a phone. We want to hear feedback. What do we need to create to really make this the product for you and your family? Because we want to listen and we want this to be like a grassroots movement, really.
That's awesome. That is so cool. I feel that. Yeah, I've been using the daylight as my alarm clock because one of my biggest barriers to getting away from my phone is I would use it as my clock, like to wake me up. And I could put it across the room, but I'd usually just put it on airplane mode and, put it away from me and then have the clock on. But as soon as it went off, then I got to turn it off. And then all of a sudden things are pinging and I'm looking and I get sucked in. So I was like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm going to use the daylight as my clock. And I did. And it just, ever since I've been doing that, I feel so much more relaxed. And that sounds like, how could something like that cause such a big difference? But maybe because I'm so sensitive and I was very aware of how I was feeling with my cell phone and having it with me all the time. And just not, I mean, I have, the remediation stuff for EMF but still, I mean, it's, the lights, the flickering lights, the energy, because even when you have the blue light filtered off, which I do most of the time at nighttime or once the sun sets, then you still have it flickering though, right?
Yep.
So it's still a stressor.
Yeah. And you still have everything else that's kind of inconvenient, and a form factor as well. If you want to talk about like myopia and just like how unnatural it is to look at this tiny box, tablet's nice because it's a bit larger. I mean, a laptop and a monitor are way better than a phone in terms of your eye health because it's just a short, narrow field of vision, and also again working outside would improve that. But yeah, it's a laundry list of why technology is bad for us, and the solutions that exist are all kind of like band-aids, like blue light blocking glasses are amazing, but like in reality, we don't ever have to wear those. All we have to do is like fix screens and fix lighting,
Yeah.
and then no one needs them.
That's funny because literally like last night or the night before I was driving in my car and I was thinking, I wonder who I could hire to make this screen so the blue light goes away because it's assaulting. It feels assaulting
In your
to
car.
me. Yeah.
Oh,
When
yeah.
I'm driving at night, I'm like, I have to wear my blue light blockers to feel whole. Because I feel like like I said, I'm so sensitive to it. Even the cars that are driving
Yes,
at me
that's
with
even
the
worse.
LEDs, I'm so it's like I use that word. I'm like, this is assaulting. It feels assaulting on my nervous system. And yeah, I don't know how to get away from it because it's the world we live in. I mean, most of the cars, the lights turned to LED, I don't know, maybe like 5-10 years ago, maybe longer, but they started transferring over. And maybe it's how long ago? 10 years ago? Something
Within
like
the
that?
last 10 years.
Yeah. And it's like, it feels different than a car that would be coming at you 10 years ago. It's like, okay, that's kind of a bright light, but now it just like it does something in my brain where I'm like I feel like I've just had a shot of coffee or something.
And that's what, again, blue light is not bad for us. It's just bad in the wrong context.
Yes, at
Like,
nighttime.
yeah,
And that's when the lights are on.
yeah, exactly. Because it's designed to wake us up and stimulate cortisol production and this cascade of hormonal effects. But that always comes with the rest of the spectrum in nature, and first thing in the morning is when that should be happening. So it's really a shame that they're banning incandescents and all the LEDs are just going everywhere, and they're so bright, they're so like high, and the flickering blue spectrum.
Even the
And
street lights
yeah,
are
they
turning
used
into
to be
LED.
nice warm amber color at
You
nighttime.
walk at night and you felt
Yep.
like, it just felt so good. My street, thank God, like actually doesn't even have any street light. I love it.
That's great.
There's it's dark on my street at night and it feels like Pleasantville. But around in my neighborhood, they were the amber lights, and most of them actually still are, but they're switching them here in this area, and it makes me really sad.
But I feel the same way. It's like once you actually change your life deliberately, you become more biologically resilient because you're healthier, but you do become more sensitive to changes in the environment. Because when you're more connected, you're more plugged in, and any deviation from there, most people walking around, like I'm talking pure normies of society, they're so disconnected that, they could fly like on a plane for 4 hours and they're going to feel like kind of the same because they're so disconnected in one environment that going to another is like, it doesn't even really matter. And they're so stimulated, they're so constantly bathing in all these external stressors that it's not really a difference. Whereas when you start cutting things out and subtracting all these stressors, then when you add them back in, you notice just how intense and how much impact that can have on how you're feeling and how your biology is functioning, which is unfortunate. But yeah, that's also why it's nice to live in an area that's, maybe
that's why you moved to Wyoming. Yeah. That's why I'm going to visit. Well, you made a good point, Tristan, because when I was younger, most of my listeners know that I grew up in with lettuce fields and strawberry fields around me, and there was a lot of pesticides, glyphosate, Agent Orange, a lot of chemicals around us. And I just didn't feel well as a child. And that's how I got into health and wellness, one of the reasons. But I was super disconnected from my body. I just knew I didn't feel well pretty much all the time. So, like you said, like I felt the same no matter what. It was like, it wasn't really a huge range. And whether I did something healthy for myself or something bad for myself, I didn't see that plus or minus too much. And now that I've really dialed my body in and I feel really good, really optimal, all of those little things, I feel them so intensely now. And I feel kind of like a diva sometimes when I'm hanging around people that aren't aware. They're like, oh my gosh, this is it's a lot for you, isn't it?
That's a challenge. Oh, I feel the same. I feel like you're so extreme. I'm like, that's just like my life. Like, it just doesn't feel extreme. I just like go outside and jump in a river and eat real food. And I have at nighttime candles in my house, and
Yeah,
I
me
sleep
too.
amazing. There's no power in my bedroom. The Wi-Fi is off. Like, there's no electronics in my
I
bedroom.
love
Like,
that.
it's yeah. And the more you learn, the more you realize just how important this is. But then you also have to take a step back and understand that it's unavoidable. You're
Mhm.
never going to avoid these stressors
No,
completely. Like,
yeah.
perfection is not realistic at all. And just moving the needle 10%, 20%,
Mhm.
30% is so massive, especially when it comes to things like EMFs, like radio frequencies, electrical power. Like, you literally can't avoid them. You could go to the deepest neck of the woods and there's probably still some residual radio frequencies there, or who knows, a military base is like within the
Yeah.
area. And
It's the
it's
world we
it's
live in
it's
now.
the world we live in.
Yeah.
So focusing on the core tenets and like moving the needle 80, 90% just has a massive impact. And the way you use technology is a big part of that, because that's a big source of all these stressors. And then the way you embrace nature and kind of the right input signals again is massive. So I think it's achievable, but yeah, it's easy to get caught up in like, oh my God, like this is gonna be
Yeah.
bad for me. I'm gonna get a bad night of sleep.
That's a
Like,
really good point you're bringing up because that stressing about doing it too perfectly is going to make us sick too. So it's really
absolutely.
having awareness, educating ourselves, doing what we can, and then accepting what we can't and being okay with that, and also trusting that our body knows what to do and it has this intelligence, and we just do the best we can and let God do the rest.
That's why it's literally today is a great example. Like, I stayed up past one last night because I was at a wedding. That never happens. Like, anyone who knows me, it's like that never happens. And then, driving here, there's traffic. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be late. You're like, oh, don't worry about it. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, it's a beautiful day. I jumped in the ocean this morning, and yeah, there's a billion people on the road and EMFs and stressors everywhere. But what an opportunity to come and like, connect with like-minded people and just have this available and working for Daylight Computer, spreading this mission, just like being alive. Like, it's all that mindset coupled with just intelligent lifestyle decisions is what it's really all about, I think. So, but it is fun to nerd out on like the science and understand all this too. So it's like, ooh, like how this is affecting water, which is what, you love to talk about, which is
Oh my
super
gosh.
fun.
So
So
much fun. The more you learn about it, the more you get excited about it. I was at the gym today and all I could think about was the experiments I was going to do tonight. But wrapping up, I have a couple questions for you. We'll just do some like quick
rapid fire.
rapid fire questions. If you could live anywhere in the world, like there was no limitation, where would it be?
If there was no people like anywhere, I mean, I do think California or Colorado would probably be the most ideal states to live in. And that's a vast
Very
spectrum.
beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, because they have great sun, they have great like latitudes as well. So you're getting nice seasonality, but you're getting good sun, amazing mountains, and you can get the beach in California as well. But yeah, however, unfortunately, there's a lot of people in these places. So Wyoming is a great bet for me, and it's good like geothermal activity there as well if you're into like magnetism being important potentially. Fun rabbit hole.
Oh yeah. If you could get rid of technology or you could advance it even more, like what would you do?
I mean, I think I'm what we're doing right now. I think for us, say like you gave us a $50 billion check and like we could just like totally change technology, I would want to study all the natural bioelectricity, like biopolymers, like melanin, and understand how like semiconduction works in biology and magnetism, magnetoreception, and use all of these things that are going on in nature and then use that as the base for technology because we understand so little about how biology and nature is using very, very complex, physics and semiconduction and electricity and ion flow to actually operate and coherence and all these things. I would just pour so much research into that. And then that should be what our technology is based around. And that would solve a lot of problems. It would make things like last for a very long time. And it would just be so cool. So I think nature has all the answers. We just need to embrace it.
Yeah, pay attention. Start going back and looking at nature more. If you could choose 3 ways, or what are the top 3 ways that you bioharmonize your body daily?
Daily, just number 1 is right when I wake up, get outside and watch a sunrise, go for a little walk, get grounded, like feet on the earth or feet in the ocean, whatever it is. Setting the morning up is really going to be the best way to set your whole day up for success. And then just coupling off that, literally just spending as much time outside as you physically can. If you spend an hour outside a day, shoot for 90 minutes. If you spend 3 hours, shoot for more. Seasonally dependent. In the winter, I don't spend as much time outside, but that's just the number 1 goal. And then really just living as close to your natural or local natural environment as possible. So eating local, embracing seasonality from a temperature perspective. Something I did last winter was I kept my house, I slowly turned down the temperature of my house to like 48, 50 degrees in January and February. I went almost full carnivore and I felt amazing. And I got cold a lot outside and in my house because guess what? In the winter in Wyoming, it's cold.
Yeah.
I'm giving it the right inputs, my body the right input signals. My mitochondria is uncoupling. I'm producing heat better. I'm eating locally. And I felt amazing. No seasonal depression. So embracing your local environment and community as well, to me, most powerful thing you can do. But it doesn't scale really well to health advice because no one in San Diego should do what I just did there. Like it's a completely different environment here. So that's powerful, I think.
Yeah, but that's what's working for you. Bio-individuality too.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can uncouple very well. Like someone from, Africa or the tropics, like probably won't be able to produce heat and handle the winter as well as I do.
Yeah. Well, I going into my ice tub has really helped me regulate temperature. I used to be cold all the time. My fingertips would get blue and my toes and everything was like I was the one, like a little simple breeze would come by and I'm like, I need a jacket. But actually I realized that was also my thyroid when I started upping my iodine. That really helped. But the cold plunges were big for helping me regulate temperature. I'm not such a little girl when it comes to getting cold anymore.
That's
Pretty
amazing.
tough.
That's good. Good for you. Yeah. I mean, should be able to get cold.
Yeah, we should be able to get cold. All right, Tristan. Well, thank you for making time to come. If people want to learn more about Daylight Computer, where can they find information?
Yeah, so daylightcomputer.com is our website. We are at Daylight Co on social media. And yeah, we launched in May. We sold out within a month or roughly. And we have a $100 deposit online to hold a spot. And then we're going to be, back on sale shortly here, end of this year. So check us out, support, give feedback, and look forward to connecting more.
I feel so honored to have mine. Thank you.